refute them in any way. If this organization has made a statement that by 2025, if there is a country that is going to challenge South Africa and possibly even surpass it, it is Nigeria. There is other things happening in Nigeria.
There also, I'm still looking at the report that oil production is probably estimated to climb by 9.5% to around 2.3 billion.
Absolutely.
But let me ask you this, aren't global investors worried that there's so much focus on this part of the economy, oil? Aren't investors looking to, being optimistic that we can actually diversify, our economy into other areas? Agriculture is there, still accounts for about 40% of our GDP growth. Yes, aren't investors, because it just looks like there's so much focus on, from the outside, as outside investors, on Nigeria's, oil capacity to produce more oil and put more oil out there and earn more, revenue.
I would have to, with due respect, disagree to that, and I would disagree only because I think all of the major oil producers in the world right now are either in war, in conflict, dying, or having their predecessors running away from the countries. And you have countries like Nigeria, who doesn't have that issue, and you have Nigeria where it's open, come trade. Okay, so because there's no, say, political risk. There's no political risk here.
Okay, so for us going forward, the Nigerian economy is still viable, still profitable for outside investors?
As an investor, as for foreign investors and for organizations much like ourselves as well, ACM Gold, but Nigeria itself, it's one of those places where we've come to do business because it's such an amazing opportunity. The growth has been phenomenal. Okay, so we've studied the markets for all of Africa. Nigeria is the place to be.
Interesting. So you remain obviously bullish on the Nigerian economy?
Very, very, very much so.
Okay, let's just wrap this up. For the global markets, currencies this week, where do you see, okay, well, today's Thursday. We have just one more day left. Of course, all of that would perhaps depend on the outcome of the G20 summit. Well, it's 2 days, actually. So all of that would depend on the outcome of the meeting.
I think the whole world's eyes are on this Khan's lunch party. Okay. Everyone's going to be focusing on there to see what surprises come out. Today, it will become very apparent what the future of the Eurozone is, what the future of Greece is, and very much so, like you mentioned, how intricately involved, possibly like the Chinese will be.
Interesting. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you for
your insight. We've been talking to Rashad Hussain, as the director of ACM Gold International. They are a forex and commodity brokerage house. We'll take another quick break now. We'll be back with the rest of the program. Please join us again. Welcome back to Business Morning. We're still talking global markets. This time we're talking about how all of this, especially the debt debacle in Europe, is affecting Nigeria, investing in Nigeria, of course, also the Nigerian stock market, that stocks on the exchange. Right now I have Ayoleke Adu, he's the chairman of ACM Gold. We're still talking about the global markets. Thank you for being here. Now, I talked to Rashad earlier on. We looked at Europe, the debt crisis. Now let's talk about how all of that, the ripple effect, how all of that may affect us here in Nigeria, especially the capital market. Now, we do know that 60% of the Nigerian stock market is actually in the hands of investors, and these investors are spread across Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world. What kind of impact would we be seeing, especially from Europe?
You see, what is happening in Europe is quite very significant. It hasn't happened before for ages. We have Greece that is threatening to have a default. They are pushing a referendum on 4th of December. And you can't blame the Greek government because, I mean, sovereignty belongs to the people. He has to go back to his people to secure their vote. And that's exactly what he's doing. And if he decides to pull out of Euro, you know, when they were forming Euro, the agreement was that it was an irrevocable membership. Now that irrevocability is being tested, and people are saying it now that, look, you may actually be able to pull out of Euro. And if Greece pulls out, you'll be sure that the next line will be Italy. And if Greek pulls out on the 4th, Italy comes in, the ripple effect on Nigeria would be some foreign investors would have to call back their funds, provided the Nigerian economy is not okay. So what the Nigerian government needs to start doing now is to look for ways to ensure that we get the economy buoyant, to get foreign investors not only into the stock market, but also into the other sectors of the economy, the agriculture, manufacturing, power, infrastructure.
Now, I was going to say this before, talking about capital flight. Now, right now, the global markets, there's fear and there's uncertainty. Nobody knows where this developments, you know, nobody saw this Greece referendum coming. And everybody was happy. We had a deal last week. All of a sudden, the markets are thrown back into that familiar territory of fear again. So I'm thinking, what would investors, especially in Europe, would be thinking about doing with their assets? Do we definitely we know they usually would put their assets or their money in treasuries, US 10-year treasuries. There's gold. There are other safe haven classes, the classes of assets. Now, would we see more funds coming to the Nigerian market? That's my question. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean,
looking for where to put their money, safe havens. Would Nigeria be one of those?
That is the issue. No, the issue you mentioned, safe havens. People would definitely, once there's turbulence, once there's extreme volatility, the first thing to do is fly to safety. Is Nigeria preparing itself as that? Flight to safety, definitely gold is a choice commodity, silver, platinum, and the US itself used to be, but people are beginning to look at the Chinese market. So Nigeria, the fundamental of the economy has to be right. It's not just about buying stocks of First Bank, Zenith Bank, GT Bank, or any other stock that matters. It's about the economy itself. The fundamental of the economy must be right. So the government needs to focus seriously on the power sector, which will be what will drive the other sectors, including the agri. So as to investors coming to Nigeria, I think Nigeria is ripe for it. In Africa, the trend is that Nigeria is actually the next in line and is projected to overtake South Africa within the next 10 years. So investors will definitely look at it, but investors will also need some assurances that the infrastructure, the cost of doing business in Nigeria is going to be predictable. Interest rates are not going to be going up and down, swinging. Exchange rate is going to be stable, and the financial sector is going to be stable. The banking sector is being cleaned up. The central bank governor has done a good job in cleaning up that sector. Now it's left for the government to now ensure that the infrastructure base, the things that will sustain growth, is actually in place, and we need to fix those quickly. Investors will look at those before they bring in money.
So basically, we are ripe, even though we still have some structural imbalances in the economy and dependence on imports and all of that. But you know, these things cannot be fixed in a day. It will take time. Yes, it's not even in a quarter. It will take time.
It cannot be fixed in a day, but people must see the step you're taking. You can't be spending 70% of your income on recurrent expenditure, and you want investors to take it seriously. You earn a lot of money, you're spending them